Hi, this is Ryan with Forecast Consoles. In this video, we're going to show you how easy it is to assemble our Continuum line of modular production furniture. I promise this was easy, and I hope that the tools required will show you how easy it will be. First things first, we're going to want a box cutter to unwrap everything, 2 Allen keys, a 4mm and a 5mm, 13mm socket wrench, preferably deep. It doesn't have to be, but it will make it easier if you have one. If you're doing a larger Continuum console and have seams in your countertop, you're going to need a 7/16 spanner to do the tight joints on the underside of the seam. All right, now that we've got our tools out of the way, let's do some prep work. The way we're going to do this is by removing the green tape that holds our panels in place, and then we're going to be removing our panels. Panels are easy to remove. You simply slide forward, pull out the back, and pull it all the way out. Set it aside. Same for your other panel. Forward, out, pull away. Once we're done with all of our cable management and wiring, we can then put those back in. The last step in our prep work is going to be inserting our 5mm button heads into our crossmember bracket. The crossmember is going to slot over these with an eye hole, so you actually want them as loose as possible without falling out. Once you've done that to all of your legs, we're ready to move forward. So laying our leg on the ground, we're going to take our crossmember, and remember the holes in the crossmember always face the floor. We're going to slot it over the large holes. So over the large holes, and then slide it down. And you'll see that it's falling forward a bit. That's okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to stand it up so that it sits flat, and then we're going to hand tight both of the set screws while pushing down. What you'll see is that once we have them even just hand tight, I can, put a good amount of force on this without it moving. So what we actually just want to do is to crank down the lower one. Okay, so now we're ready to start our assembly. We roughly position the legs about the distance they're going to be from each other, and behind me you can see on the floor the chassis, because we'll kind of just do this all in a stepwise process, and it's easier if everything's together and already in the position where it's going to go. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to stand up our first leg. Stand it up with our pre-attached crossmember, and all we're going to do is attach this crossmember to our next leg. And then we're going to take our 5mm Allen key, and we're going to tighten down, first hand tight. This one is pretty good. Then we're going to take our Allen key, and we're going to crank down our bottom one. We'll then move on to our next leg. Once we have all of our legs attached, we can start going through with our chassis. So our chassis, simply lift up, and we walk forward. It'll slide right in, drop it down, and the way we align it is by pushing it forward until the back edges are aligned. You're also going to see that the through holes align, and then inside you'll be able to see insert holes that we're going to attach using our button heads. So we simply hand tight. These we're not going to tighten down with an Allen key. We're simply going to just hand tight them because it's just going to hold our chassis in place. We then would go down the line, next chassis, next chassis, next chassis, and then we'll move on to our countertop and rear extrusion. For our rear extrusion, we're going to pre-install all of our T-bolts. So to start on one side, 4 T-bolts per leg, and then we're just going to move on down the line, adding 4 as we go. Now that we have our T-bolts installed, there's 2 ways of attaching our extrusion: the drop-on method or the slide-on method. Let's start with the drop-on method. The idea here is that we are going to be aligning the head of the T-nut with these underside channels. Drop-on method is, as it sounds, just where it drops on. And you'll see that that side worked, but this side is actually sitting up a little bit high. So what you're going to do is just kind of negotiate it until it falls down, and then you're in place. The slide-on method is just that. You start on one end, align your channel, and just keep pushing. So we slide it to the center, and then we take our matching piece for our other side. I'm going to use a combination of the slide on and drop on, so I'm going to drop that in, and then slide them together. And what you want to do is you want to align this so that the seam is aligned. Once it's aligned, what I like to do is take my T-nuts and rotate them 90 degrees to get them roughly into place. Now you'll see that you're gonna have to wiggle the extrusion a little bit to get those in line. There's nothing wrong with that. So you get those started. And now what I would do is drop on my countertop before I tighten these down. This way I have some play. So let's do the countertop now. If your countertop does have a seam, check out the video description below for a link to our demo video on seaming. Walk straight up, line up one side, line up the other side, and simply wiggle backwards. And we're going to have to come back out. If it doesn't sit one side, that's okay. We're gonna pull forward a bit, get that edge on there, and then we're gonna come over here, and we're gonna get this edge on. And this is why we wanted to keep our extrusion loose. It makes this much easier. So again, pull this back, and you'll feel it drop in because there's actually mortise on the underside of the countertop where the top screws for the arms go. And this will go. You'll see we want to shift the whole thing over, getting it centered. And then we're going to pull this back until that hits. And make sure it's down. And now our countertop is in place. Our extrusion is in place, and we're gonna tighten it down. I'm gonna flip this over for a moment so you can easily see what I'm doing. We're going to be using the front 6 holes on the arm. You want these to be able to go in quite easily by hand. Now we're gonna take our Allen key and tighten these down. Now that we have our legs in place, we can attach our chassis. Same thing, just hand tight. And now we can hand tight our Allen key. And once you've done this for all of your legs and chassis, we can move on to tightening down our extrusion. You may notice there's a gap here in the back between the countertop and the extrusion. That's okay. It's very easy to fix. What we're gonna do is we're gonna take our nuts for our T-bolts. We're gonna pre-tighten those on. Flipping over one more time to show how this works. We're gonna take all of our T-bolts and we're gonna turn them 90 degrees so that the demarc line is now perpendicular to our channel. We're then gonna take our nut, attach our nut, and just hand tighten down. Then what you're gonna do is you're gonna push on the extrusion like that, and you'll see the gap go away. You just use your body weight. Sometimes you'll have to do one side and then the other, but usually it'll go together. So I push in the center, tighten down one. You can tighten them down with your 13mm socket. You push, takes up the gap, socket, tighten down, and that'll stay. Then, once our extrusion is on, we can start dropping in our turrets, which simply drop in. Turrets just drop in. We have countertop fillers we can drop in. And then we can move on to our monitor arms. So, monitor arms, super easy to attach. Just like our rear extrusion, but upside down. We have a T-nut, drop it in the channel, turn clockwise until it locks in place, and drop in our arm. And now you're done. Again, this has been Ryan with Forecast Consoles. I hope this video helped you assemble your new console, and I hope it was as easy as I promised. If it wasn't, or you run into any issues, give us a call, shoot us an email, we'll help you work through it. This way you can get assembled and start enjoying your new console. See you in the next one.